If there's something I really like about Fate Zero, is its ability to pack so much in to one episode without missing a beat. It gives just enough for you to infer, but also enough for you to understand what's going on. You're not deliberately being kept in the dark. Sure, there are some confusing elements, but isn't that how stories work a lot of the times? Sometimes not all the pieces are evident. You need to keep going to fit them all together. I believe that Fate does this extraordinarily well, especially in the second half with just how much is going on and how much converging there always is in the conflicts. Because a lot of the conflicts are always resolved by stalemates, but in the second half they are being resolved actually by progressing the plot forward, by causing other things to happen innately. I mean, you could say the same about the first half, but I would argue more so with the second half, and that's perfectly fine. The first half is a setup, and it introduces us to the characters and what types of conflicts we will see. It gets us used to that. It gets us used to the world and how things work, how things are governed, how characters react, what they think, what they're going to do, how they work together, how they think of each other. You know, a lot of things. That's why the first half is necessary. The second half wouldn't deliver on exactly what it's trying to do if not for the first half. That's why if you were to say you would prefer the first half to not exist, or you prefer we just jump straight to this, then I question your rationale with understanding and enjoying the series. We all enjoy things in different ways. It's subjective whether or not you enjoy something. But Fate isn't just a series about its fights. You can argue, but Hope, you're liking season 2 a lot, and it's very full of spectacle and very much full of fighting. Yes, it is really cool to look at. It makes my eyes orgasm practically, and I'm like nutting half the time I'm watching. It's really neat. But that's supplementary to the actual story and characters that progress to that, the conflict to the resolution here. That's what makes it great. It's not just the fighting itself and how beautifully animated it is and the choreography along with the soundtrack. It's being supplemented by the brilliant storytelling and character writing. So Fate just does a really good job with this. So we start the episode beginning back with the conflict that we left off last time. Um, we see Karya especially suffering with all the worms just converging and like twitching beneath his skin. They're popping out almost as if they're veins. It's disgusting to look at, and it's really hard to watch. We get more action. The intro plays, and we get into our meat and potatoes. So Iskandar actually proposes an idea to Saber and decides to regroup with everyone and talk about a plan because, well, there's not much else we can do. Saber is like, what the fuck? We can't just leave. And Iskandar's like, listen to me. I have an idea. We have to. We're not going to get anything done if we don't do this. So they go together and talk. Because we have to... we must first buy some time. So we'll restrain him with the reality marble while we come up with a plan. A good use of the reality marble, which was seen in the previous season. A good setup and showing its use again. Because I think that having the reality marble show up in the first half was good. Because if it was the first time showing up here, it would be cool. But I think it's a lot better that we've seen it before and getting to see it in a tactical situation rather than just being overpowered and in brute strength. So I think that's very well done. Cute scene with Waver and Iskandar on how he's telling Waver basically, I activate the field, I won't know what transpires outside, so I'm trusting you that if you ever need, focus your mind and call for me if anything happens. I love how trusting and how much faith Iskandar has for Waver. It's really nice. And Waver just agrees, actually has some sort of confidence, doesn't just go, but Ryder, I'm scared! No, he just goes, We get some more Berserker and Gilgamesh fighting. We actually get to see more of the townspeople coming across the scene. You can go back to my previous episode to hear why I think this is good and how people complaining about people not knowing about the Grail War is stupid criticism. They show it right here. And it's being kept under wraps by the church anyways. We get. I really like this scene where Gilgamesh is continuing to pursue Berserker, and ends up in a position where he's pushing Berserker down towards the Cthulhu to be swallowed by it, but the monster disappears because of the noble phantasm, the reality marble, and you actually have a moment where Gilgamesh actually gets pretty mad. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" He doesn't say that, but he's basically thinking it because he was expecting Berserker to fall to their doom there, and it's like the idea of taking away Gilgamesh's victory here is the same as basically spitting in his face. So it's obviously something he's not very okay with. This would make him very angry. We get more of Karia trying to fight Tokiomi by unleashing his swarm of wasp creatures, but unfortunately Tokiomi is a very strong mage and has this barrier put up, and Tokiomi's taunting Karia in just such a fucking smug and condescending way. It's sickening to me. I absolutely despise Tokiomi. Karia is just trying his best to hold out. His veins are popping and blood is just fucking oozing all over his body. And meanwhile, in the darkness, the shadows, fitting that Assassin would be his servant, the shadows, Kirei lies watching, deciding on what he should do, if he should jump in or not. He actually is like, wait a second, is he trying to kill himself? And we'll get into this later. I really like Kirei's thinking here because he's obviously stating the obvious, but to Kirei, he's really thinking, this person is really really going this far? How interesting. Kirei is someone I think who loves to see how people work, how they tick, how the mind thinks, how people, when pushed to their very limits, what they'll do. What does a person do when they have nothing left? What does a person do when there are no other options? I think that's very fascinating. It's why Kirei and Gilgamesh mesh well together, I think. Fuck Tokiomi here. Karia, think of this as my gift to you. He's basically like, die as an intensive fiery death. Die an intensive fiery death. He says, intensive... If I have any German viewers or any German people watching, I don't know how to say this. I'm just gonna think what I think it sounds like. Enish Ein Ascherung or something like that. Ein Ascherung, something like that. Obviously, I'm incorrect, but I'm just saying what I think it would sound like. I like the way that they combine different like languages with the attacks. So he actually starts incinerating Karia alive, and just imagine how painful this would be for Karia, who's not only dying but has insects writhing in his skin. Just this was hard to watch. This was really hard to watch for me. I love this shot where he's burning and you just see these static lines as he's trying to form a face. Kurosu! Oh, it's so well done. Tokiomi! Soken! He's just the amount of suffering in his voice. He can't even put that much anger into it because he's in pain. He's being burned alive along with the guns. He literally falls over this building and Tokiomi's like, I did it. I've won. Kirei watches this and he starts to think to himself, One of my favorite scenes is when I love this, it's so cute. Is when Irie suddenly feels this something like vibrate in her pocket or whatever pocket, I don't know what she has in that dress, and she starts to get embarrassed like, what how does this work? It's so cute. And wait, we're just open. So Kiritsugu calls and forms a plan and tells them what to do. They're going to place the reality marble in a location and then take advantage of Saber's Excalibur. This was foreshadowed in the previous episode where Kiritsugu said it's all up to Saber, basically. Saber's the trump card here. And given her handicap, something's going to have to go down between Lancer and Saber. What I really like about Kiritsugu here is he knows exactly what he's doing here. He knows for a fact, because he knows enough about Lancer and Saber, that he has a good idea that the chivalry between the two will dictate that if Saber's ability is revealed, that Lancer will somehow abide by it and let her handicap go by either, on the extreme side, killing himself, which is a very doubtful circumstance, but on the other side, Kiritsugu has a very strong feeling that he would destroy the spear. Very good thought by Kiritsugu, because it is absolutely correct. I'm sure someone would argue,
It's convenient that Kiritsugu could guess that, because what if Lancer didn't?
well, it's already been established in the show that Kiritsugu is very good at reading people and has very good ideas of how future things are happening. He predicts a lot of things. It's not a something dumb. It's actually really good. It goes to show Kiritsugu's skill here, and I think it's going to lead to something where he can't predict later on. It's going to be sort of a thing where he has everything in plan, he has everything in check, but sometime in the future, it's not going to work out for him. This is my favorite scene right here. Like Lancer is just utterly surprised, and it's like just starts to speak to Saber like, would it be able to destroy Castor's monster with a single strike? But and Saber, I love Saber's voice. It's so soft, but what's the word I'm looking for? It combines a sense of strength, softness, warmth, and sorrow. The sorrow is an underlying part of her voice, because I think that Saber's character hides a lot of her true feelings. I mean, she is the king, right, after all. A king shouldn't be emotional. But I love her smile here as she looks up. However, Lancer, the weight of my sword is the weight of my pride. The wound from my battle with you is an honor, not a fetter. The aid of dear Muino, I don't know how to say Odina, as a substitute for my left arm is worth 10,000 men. That is some mad fucking respect to Lancer there, and I really like it. Lancer just goes, smiles. This scene is so good. Well, Saber, I cannot forgive Castor's actions. He affirms the despair of those around him and finds joy in spreading terror. By the vows I swore as a knight, I cannot abide such evil. And he sets his spear down, gets the other one in a position to where Saber immediately knows, wait a second, Lancer, you mustn't! Is it Saber who must win this fight? Is it Lancer? No, it is neither. What must triumph here is the knight's path of chivalry that we champion. He's arguing, basically, it's not them that should be the thing that defeats this monster. It's the honor, pride, and triumphant nature of what the knights embody in the path of chivalry. They hold it. They hold that within themselves. They cannot abandon it. They cannot throw it away. Solely what's left of the past and what could be made into the future. Really well done. I love it. I love how Lancer calls Saber by her true name, Arturia. He breaks the spear, leviating the handicap. God, I love Lancer, man. Lancer's great character. He's so great. I rest my hopes for victory upon your blade, King of Knights. I'm counting on you, Saber. I accept, Lancer. Awesome stuff. So we get an amazing shot of the Excalibur forming from the invisible thing that she I forget what it's called, but she basically uses different like refractions of light to hide her blade by using like wind, I think, or something. It's really cool. So she reveals Excalibur in its true nature, and then Berserker starts to gun her down, which you would think that's odd, because why would Berserker suddenly leave like attacking Gilgamesh to attack Saber. That just seems illogical almost. And I'm gonna go into my theory now. So, when I'm editing, after re-editing the Berserker fight in episode 5, and after having learned a lot more about the King Arthur lore and mythos, and rewatching the ending song of Fate Zero Season 1 multiple times, I have come to a conclusion. Berserker is a Knight of the Round Table. Now you may be thinking, hope. That's fucking ludicrous. Why? What's your evidence here? There's a few things, actually. In Season 1, after Gilgamesh disappears when fighting Berserker, Tokiomi uses a command seal to call Gil back. And Berserker, there's a shot where Berserker just stares at Saber for about 5 seconds. That might be exaggerating. It's like 3 or 4 seconds. It's enough for you to see that he's staring at her. Why would he do that? It's as if he noticed Saber. It's as if he knew Saber. Why else would he attack her first? You could argue, well, he just attacked the first thing that he saw. Well, why not go for Lancer, who's closer to him at that point? Doesn't that seem smarter? You could argue, well, Berserker is just rage incarnate. It can't really read. Then why was it staring at her? Why wouldn't its first knee-jerk reaction be to attack? There's a lot of stuff there. And, well, Berserker becomes increasingly aggressive and very angry towards Saber. And there's something that clued me in even more so. This wasn't enough to test my theory. But there's a shot at the ending of Fate Zero Season 1 where a knight clad in armor is in a lake. Believe it or not, I had no idea about this part of the King Arthur lore. I'm not very much a buff about the myths and legends and stuff like that. And I know to an extent, but I didn't know much, and I'm very happy that I've learned a lot. When rewatching the ending while editing, I nearly screamed to myself because I had just realized something. What if that person is Berserker? And what if, because they're wearing armor, and they're the only person in the outro that we haven't seen a physical form for, and we've seen all of the servants and masters in the outro, that one's gotta be Berserker. 2, the lake. Do you want to know who's tied to lakes? The King Arthur lore. Do you want to know what the lake is? The spirit of the lake. A spirit within a mystical lake. Very imperative to the lore. Why would this character be in this lake, almost pondering life itself? If that truly is Berserker, then there are only a few candidates for me to talk about here. Either A, it is a Knight of the Round Table. We don't have a specific one to choose from. Well, I have a few candidates. 1, Galahad, son of Lancelot. Why Galahad? Well, I think that having been the son of Lancelot, who had a big ordeal with the affair of Guinevere and King Arthur, would be an interesting thing to show. Would he have some spite for Saber at that point? Because, well, there's a lot of things that could go there. Number 2, it could be, I forget her name, I always do. The person who outed Guinevere and got her to be executed, because she found out that she was cheating. And 3 is Lancelot, who in the lore is very much known to have not only committed adultery with Guinevere, but eventually came to have some sort of disdain for the king. And his lore is very much in sync with the spirit of the lake itself, and even in the end of the lore, Lancelot is sent to Avalon. by Merlin, I believe. So that's my theory. I believe Berserker is A, part of the Knights of the Round Table, and B, from which I believe those characters. And I presented all of my evidence, and if I'm wrong, then I apologize. You probably just listened to me talk out of my ass. But I wanted to propose this theory because it really got. I've been thinking super hard about this stuff. Super hard, and I've been learning a lot about the lore. And I feel like Fate's one of those series that you can really interpret a lot of things and just guess. Not you can well guess is different. You can allude with facts and evidence that you have and knowledge of lore to formulate a possible scenario. Let's say that Berserker is a completely different person than what we're talking about here. Does my theory still hold up? I think there's still merit to it. I think that you can stay. It's not stupid. I mean, it's certainly possible. So, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Let's go ahead and continue. Okay, this scene is... There's a lot to digest here. Oh my god, these discussions are fucking crazy long, dude. Holy fuck. For the Fate fans that are watching all the way through, bless you. So Kirei comes upon Karia's body, and I was very conflicted onto whether Kirei was going to let him live or kill him or not. But, believe it or not, Kirei's first instinct was to kill Karia. I love this the subtle as he sees Karia like writhing in pain, he goes like a like it's very subtle. I like that. Holds up his fucking claws and starts to look at Karia, and in his mind he immediately thinks about what Gil told him. If you remember, I believe that Kirei has a very distorted and sickened view about pleasure. Because there's a certain scene when he's talking to Gilgamesh where Gilgamesh is trying to tell Kirei that he does desire the Grail in a certain way. Kirei is denying this, and there's a part where Kirei says something about pleasure and how he doesn't. My memory is a bit hazy. About life's pleasures, and he says something. He responds to Gilgamesh after saying something negative with I'm gonna have to go back, but I'm just gonna explain without explaining the scene. Basically, Kirei has a very distorted sense of pleasure, to which Gilgamesh replies, "That's not what pleasure can be all the time. Pleasure can be positive. It can be both negative," and he questions Kirei a little bit. That's to give you insight on his mind. Kirei actually has a sick, perverted mind, in my eyes. And that only goes toe-to-toe with his stoicism and his just serious and emotionless attitude. So, the soul naturally seeks pleasure, consciously or not, which is correct. This is why Kirei is thinking right now. He was the only one you ordered assassin to investigate such a degree that you can understand those complicated circumstances. So if you remember, Gilgamesh was breaking Kirei's psyche down and actually kind of fucking with him a little bit. And this was all due to your unconscious interest. He's unconsciously seeking pleasure and vindication by finding others who are entertaining, who embody the struggles and what they're faced with, and a lot of other things that I said earlier. So after thinking this, he literally decides to save Karia because he believes that this will lead to an encounter in the future that will be entertaining to watch. Because if you remember, Kirei has stated that he found Karia very interesting to watch, and so does Gilgamesh. So, this is just for fun. Kirei doesn't have to do this, and I think this is going to be a surprise for Tokiomi later. Kirei, you sly bastard. What are you thinking? Oh man, that's just... that's awesome. I love his character and his ideology. I feel like I have a good grasp of it. Like, not completely, but I feel like I'm getting there. It's just... it is really neat. He heals Karia. Oh god, Kirei is so cool. Kirei is like a chaotic evil. I'm very interested to see if he snaps later and actually gives in to what he truly desires. Okay, Waver gives the information to one of the summons, and we get some more. We're trying to get the reality marble into this one spot. We get some more battling between Berserker and Saber. Saber's dodging more of the machine gun bullets, and then Lancer, like the fucking brother that he is like, I'm gonna go help out. He attacks Berserker, and he literally destroys the ship like a fucking badass, riding the wind almost, forcing Berserker to come down to the ground. Not without a machine gun cannon left. And then Gilgamesh shows up, and he's just watching. He averts Saber's destruction there from Berserker. Just a lot of stuff's going on, and I love the complexity here. Gilgamesh is excited to watch. He's like, now, Saber, show me! I shall judge the true worth of your brilliance as a heroic spirit. And then the Excalibur shines up above as it draws in from what I thought would be the spiritual nature energy. But no, it is the dreams, hopes of many of the warriors scattered in battle, past, present, and future. I love the soundtrack here. Hold and mournfully exalt as their final moments approach. She carries their will as her pride, bidding them to remain steadfast in their loyalty. King Arthur. What? God, Saber, I love her so much. Now, the undefeated king. Let me get back to this line, because I do think it's worthy of reading out loud. Now, the undefeated king sings aloud the name of the miracle she holds in her hands. The music begins to crescendo here as she opens her eyes and looks upon the light. Is just her sword is casting off the light and the dreams of everyone, and it's shining upon the water. It's so beautiful. It's so fucking good. The water animation is so good. Its name is, she raises her sword up, Excalibur! Oh yeah, that scream in the animation was perfect. Yes, and it's directly from the first intro of Fate Zero. Yeah. And here we have a scene that I actually really like. Now, a lot of people will be like,
Castor is really one-dimensional and very bad character. He died really fast and was just evil.
There's actually a lot of depth here. Go read his lore, and the some lore about Joan of Arc, and try to examine his talk with Ryunosuke in episode 13 of season 1, and I think you'll get a greater appreciation for his character. And also the loyalty and friendship of him with Ryunosuke is pretty admirable too. The light comes in. It's fitting that it's Saber who shines this light upon him, to which he sees nothing distorted anymore. He doesn't see, his eyes finally don't see perversion. It sees nothing but the good of what he had seen previously in his life. He sees Joan of Arc. There's no doubt. He starts crying. This was the brilliance that blessed Joan and me with joy and bliss. It's really sad seeing her. She's really pretty, though, because if you in the lore, she is very God came to me and told me that I am destined to bring forth a change in the battle. I will go forth and change everything, for he has given me all the strength that I need. And she was very much a part of that kind of like religious intent. And she was eventually persecuted and executed because apparently The church is corrupt. It's been corrupt all throughout history. Just think of the Crusades and think of a lot of the fucky shit that happened in the Catholic parts of the world, even in Britain, not Britain, Europe too. So it happened a lot. Oh, this little smile from her, and if you remember, Gilderoy and her actually were a pair. They were together for a lot of certain like missions and stuff. I don't know the word. Mission is a basic word. I forget what exactly like they had to do, but I'm just using it as a loose word. She almost puts her hand out for him, and in this final moment, Castor actually starts to question everything that he's lived through, question his betrayal, and through this final shining light of love realizes something. I love the silence as the music breaks. There's no sound, no music, just the animation and the character movement. He holds out his hands. What have I? And he fades, he's destroyed by Excalibur. Now, they don't end the sentence there, because it's very much up to your interpretation. But what I think the caster has said here was, what have I done? In this final moment, the light shining upon him, seeing Jeanne embodied by the Excalibur and the hopes. It can also be said that when Saber summoned this energy, that perhaps she was one of the a part of that light. Her dream may have reached out into it and touched Castor here, just like Irie lamented earlier. And he, for one moment here, the evil in his heart is cast away. Fitting that I said cast away. And he believes truly at this moment that he has made a mistake. That what he wanted and what he needed was always there all along. As cliche as that sounds, but it's actually a lot more meaningful than that. Just like Ryunosuke, I believe the caster found God within another person. The existence was shown to him through Jeanne. Not the fact that her being taken away and his betrayal is what made him question God. But the light here made him reaffirm that to himself, to which he laments that, what have I? And I think he completes that sentence with, done. And Castor and Ryunosuke have been taken out. What a pair. I'm gonna give a round of applause. What a great pair of characters. Astounding ideologies and really well done deaths within 2 episodes as well. Very entertaining duo. Very thought-provoking duo as well. It really gets you to think a lot. I really love it. Okay. The last chunk of this episode is going to be really hard to talk about because it's very confusing. So I'm going to do my best, because this part I don't know much about. I have no idea what's being alluded here. So I'll just try to think about it the best that I can. We get a scene between Iskandar and Gilgamesh as they talk. If you remember, Iskandar and Gilgamesh do not agree with Saber's ideals. They do not agree with how she ruled as a king and how she is using what she desires is to change the course of history for Britain, because to Iskandar that's the same as forsaking your own rule. You're erasing your mark. That's very unkingly. And Iskandar has told Saber, I do not think of you as a king. I do not respect you in that way. I'm sure that Iskandar respects her in other regards, but as a king itself, I don't think so. Gilgamesh respects her in another way, a very dark and twisted way, but we'll get to that soon. And that's what sparks the disagreement between the two. They're all different, which is what I like. They all have similarities and differences, and agreements and grievances. Did you see that, King of Conquerors? That was Saber's brilliance. Do you still refuse to accept her, having witnessed light of such magnitude? To which Iskandar scoffs. That light comes from her having taken all our people's hopes upon herself. To Iskandar, while this is good, what Saber is actively wanting to achieve is the restoration of Britain, which is innately good, but it would erase so much and change the course of history in a way to which, would the people still have their hopes in her? Would that be just? It's very complicated to get when you break it down. Let's just say it's very complex, and I don't think there's a right answer. Its brightness is what makes it tragic. I agree. Especially when you consider the one bearing that burden is just a dreaming little girl. Scanner is stating it's tragic because the hopes and dreams of the others are being shown forth by someone who's ignorant and following a foolish path. Iskander doesn't consider Saber a little girl in the sense of she's a little girl. Iskander isn't looking down on her for that part. He's looking down on the foolishness of Saber herself. That's what he's getting at. I love how serious they're talking here. I really like this. It's like a continuation of the Grail dialogue. The girl never had a happy childhood, never fell in love. I'm not sure about this. Happy childhood, I agree. Never fell in love? That's depending on the Fate mythos. If we're talking about Guinevere, well, Arthur technically did fall in love, but was fucked over by the end. So that depends. But was cursed by her ideals and ended up this way. Well, yes. Her ideals were set in a very strong sense of absolutes and reluctance of hearing other sides and change of opinion. It is too painful to look upon. But this is why Gilgamesh is so similar to Kirei. They find this not painful, but simply beautiful. Isn't that what makes her so beautiful? Her dreams were too much for her. I imagine they destroyed the dreamer herself in the end. The tragedy and irony of, well, her death, having been betrayed by Mordred, which is actually shown in the shot at the end of the Fate Zero ending. The tears of lamentation she shed during her final moments must have been quite sweet to the taste. Fucked up. I believe that in her final moments, during the fall of Britain, Saber realized where she fucked up, where her mistakes lie. And she just could only hope for the best for her people and wish that she could levy her mistakes a little bit by being given another chance. Which is what sets forth her summoning is so impactful with what she wants here. You and I just can't see eye to eye, Babylonian King of Heroes. This is where Iskander disagrees. He doesn't see the beauty here. He sees the tragedy here. And it's a good point of reference here, is that they can agree in a lot of ways, all three of them, but they disagree in many, many stark differences. Here, Saber would probably agree with Iskander, believe it or not. Oh, so you finally realized. Then what will you do, Ryder? Will you let your steel give shape to your rage? I would like that very much. So they're declaring their battle for the future here and now. Because Iskander is actually mad. He's not really showing it, but Gilgamesh knows that that would set him off. Because Iskander does not agree with that statement by Gilgamesh. But I have exerted myself a little too much tonight to face an opponent like you. Correct. The reality Margot takes a lot out of them, and for him to have done it for minutes to the point of like nearly fucking not having enough time left, yeah, very strenuous activity. I love this part of the dialogue here. Just a perfect character interaction that is just really fitting for their characters. Of course, I would have to fight back should you refuse to allow me passage. I love this. To which Gilgamesh is just, I don't mind. Just, I love how he's always looking like this, like, I don't mind. You may flee, King of Conquerors. It wouldn't satisfy me to destroy you at anything less than your full strength. And I love how Gilgamesh has to say, destroy you, not fight you in the sense that it's up to the air who will win. It's definitive. I want to destroy you when you're at your full strength. Cocky fucker. Skinner's just like, so you're wounded yourself from being shut down by that black thing. He winks. This actually makes Gilgamesh a little salty, so which Gilgamesh just replies, I repay provocation with death. So step off and back the fuck off. Is basically what Gilgamesh is saying there. Because that was not pretty. You do not talk to him like this. This guy's like, okay, well, we'll decide this next time, King of Heroes. Our battle shall be the one that determines the winner of this Grail War. Honestly, I'm inclined to agree with him. It's gonna be one of the deciding factors, for sure. This isn't the part that's confusing. I was mainly talking about the final scene, which is the confusing part. So let's talk about it. I wouldn't be so sure. I have yet to decide whether only one individual is worthy of receiving my treasure, writer. This is very interesting. I believe that Gilgamesh is speaking that he is looking for someone he finds worthy enough to share upon his wealth. Someone that he can agree with. Someone that he can deem not a mongrel, not an equal, but someone worthy of respect. Now, who do I think that will be? I think it's going to be Kirei. Kirei is taking much from Gilgamesh, and in a way, he's been groomed to release his true inner feelings. The joy and pleasure of, well, seeing others through their sorrow and suffering and their refusal to give up. So, that is so interesting. I like it. I like where this is going. Gilgamesh hasn't definitively decided yet, but I believe it's going to be Kirei. If they survive, at least. I don't see them... I don't know. I mean, I don't see Gilgamesh surviving this, believe it or not. But I believe that he would want to share with Kirei. Final scene. This is what is hard to grasp for me. He looks down at Saber. She's a fool who reaches for dreams beyond human attainment. To an extent, I agree with you. I, Gilgamesh, am the only one in this heaven and earth with the right to love her in her destruction. I get the I, Gilgamesh, am the only one worthy in this heaven and earth. But the right to love her in her destruction. Is Gilgamesh arguing that he's the only one capable or deserving of showing remorse in the destruction of her? Is the only one worthy in taking her down, destroying her dream? Proving to her that it's mere child's play? He disappears, but this final little... It's almost like Saber's listening to something. Whoa, wait a sec. That's not Gilgamesh talking! That's not Gilgamesh talking! That's not Gilgamesh talking! Okay. That's not Gilgamesh. I'm glad I'm rewatching this, because this is the problem. I think people should rewatch or re-go through the episode after they're finished if they want to talk about it. A lot of people don't do that, and I find it to be stupid. Ephemeral and brilliant one, fall to my embrace. That is my decision. Saber looks very stoically. Golden Brilliance. Fitting title for Saber herself. That's gotta be Berserker. Berserker was the one who attacked her, right? Berserker's still gonna want to attack her after this. Berserker saw Excalibur and went after her. Yeah, Berserker is absolutely someone from the Round Table. The thing is, though, what about the ephemeral... I don't get why Berserker would say this to Saber. This would reveal his identity in a way, wouldn't it? Ephemeral and brilliant one, fall to my embrace. That is my decision. Okay. I think it's a charmer. Someone who was a charmer. Who was a charmer in the Arthur lore. Gawain was a charmer. Wouldn't be Gawain, no, that's too simple. Lancelot, but Lancelot made Guinevere fall in love with him. So why would he attach himself to Saber? If it were Galahad, it's possible. Could be Galahad. Maybe Galahad was in love with Arthur? Well, obviously in the original story, Galahad wouldn't be in love with Saber. But it has to be someone who greatly respected Arthur in a sense. So Gawain fits that bill. So does Galahad. But would Lancelot? Lancelot is a charmer, so it is possible. That's very peculiar. I don't have a definitive answer, but that's where my thought process is, and I'm going to keep that in the air. So, with that, we've reached the end of this episode, and all I have to say is absolutely brilliant episode. Another 10 out of 10. Fate has everything from foreshadowing, stunning visuals, amazing sound design and music choice, some fantastic choreography, some great foreshadowing, so much just there's so much to read, so much subtlety, so much show don't tell, so much character interaction, so many plot points converging, so many things happening. The pacing is very well done. It's just excellent. Fate is excellent. Just 2 episodes into the second half of Zero, and it's actually blowing my mind to the quality here. It is actually blowing my fucking mind to how good it is. This is amazing.